The artwork on the hull of the Norwegian Escape has been your largest canvas to date. Can you tell us more about your inspiration for this project?
Just having the invitation from Norwegian Cruise Line to put hull art on a big ship, on the newest ship, was a fantastic honor for me. It took a long time to consider what species were appropriate. Of course, knowing the home port and the roots primarily in the Caribbean, I would need to put in some of the iconic Caribbean species. But the biggest issue was to fill the huge space on the bow. What species would be big enough, colorful enough, have enough action? And of course, the sailfish came straight to mind because of the grand size of the fish. It's an iconic sport fish in this part of the world. Everybody who has anything to do with sport fishing down here loves to catch sailfish and release them, of course. And then thereafter, going aft, we got some of the other iconic Caribbean species such as turtles, stingrays, jacks. We've got some frigate birds up there too, because the waters through which this ship will be going will have all those animals around it. Then down toward the stern, we've got a mixture of Caribbean reef species such as parrotfish, butterfly fish, angelfish, and some reef itself. And the entire combination is really to remind people as they're going across this beautiful blue ocean what actually lives beneath the surface, to enlighten people about the aesthetic appeal of these animals, but also the need to conserve many of these species, some of which we consume at an alarming pace.
You hold a PhD in fisheries management. When did you decide you wanted to be an artist?
The art and the science have evolved continuously through my life. From the early age of 5 or 6, my mum's got pictures of me drawing and sketching, and she was a good artist herself and would encourage me to do what I did. But it was through the love of fishing with both of them, they're both accomplished anglers, that I really appreciated fish more than anything else. So I wanted to formalize my education in fish, and right throughout, undergraduate, postgraduate, I concentrated on marine sciences, but fish biology in particular. And after I got my PhD at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, I stayed on as a professor, you say in America. At the same time, the professional art career was evolving. I had my first one-man art show in Kingston in 1985, almost exactly 30 years ago. Went to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, had a sellout display there at that show that really opened my eyes, and by the end of that year, 86, I was signing contracts to have the art printed on apparel. So that's next year is the 30th anniversary of that. I work in 5 different media, including pen and ink, watercolor, acrylic, oil, and of course photography, which is a very recognized art form. So the whole process has taken all this time to evolve. But with that success, certainly by the mid-90s, I was leaning back toward my roots, which is science, and we formed the Harvey Research Institute based at the Nova Southeastern University up in Fort Lauderdale.
You've authored 4 books. Can you tell us a bit about them?
The very first book is based on Ernest Hemingway's story of the old man and the sea. So it's not really my story, but it's my version of his story in pen and ink drawings. And I did 60 to cover the whole story when I was 17 years old. I mean, I've written 4 books, 3 of which have lots of my action photos in it, and this is where the photography becomes so important.
Can you share with us your love for the old man in the sea?
2 things about the old man in the sea. First thing is that it was the first time I found an author who wrote about this fish, the blue marlin, which is an amazing animal, a fish about which I'm really obsessed, still am today. They're powerful, they're beautiful, they're fast, they're hard to catch, they're amazing to dive with. Incredible animals, great predators, the top predator in the open ocean. And secondly, the people he described fishing for them were what I saw in Jamaica, people going out in small boats, fishing with hand lines, catching giant fish. And to me, the whole thing, I could relate to the story. And so it was easy for me to, using my situation in Jamaica, to portray the story as I envisaged, through his writing.
You're very active when it comes to the conservation of oceans and marine environment. What message would you want to share with people about that?
There are several ways people can get involved with conserving the ocean, and it doesn't matter if you're a fisherman or a diver, or you just like to eat seafood, or you live far away from the sea. Many of your actions will affect what happens in the sea at a later point. So if you're a fisherman or a diver, let's take them for example, please obey all the rules and regulations, all the no fish limits, the parks, the closed seasons, catch limits, slot limits, all these things that are put there for a reason to allow you to sustainably fish, release if necessary. But if you do take fish home, that they're the right size and you're not affecting the reproductive capacity of the resource that you're fishing for. If you're a diver, obviously you dive with a conscience. You don't mash up the coral, you don't shoot fish, you take a camera, you do it responsibly. Now if you're a consumer and you do neither of the other things, you want to eat sustainably caught seafood. And there are guides out there now available. In fact, my foundation puts one out, sustainable seafood guides. And they just tell you which fish are caught sustainably and the best ones to eat, which fish are over-extracted, over-exploited, and which are to be avoided. And there's a range in between that. And so it's building up this knowledge in the consuming public that drives, of course, commercial fishing about what to eat and what not to eat, and hopefully making a difference. But there are many other ways, like, you can be living 20, 30 miles from the sea, and you need to recycle and not let plastic bags get in the water, and just live conscientiously in harmony with nature, because while nature can bounce back and absorb a lot of our abuse, it can't go on forever.
Your shirts are very popular with the fishing community. What is the biggest fish you've ever caught and where?
The biggest fish I caught ever, I caught 2 of them in the same day in Madeira off Portugal. They were blue marlin, each around 1,100 pounds, and one after the other. I was very, very lucky. I dived with one and got lots of underwater footage of her before she was released, and the other one, we just let her go. But they were huge fish. They're about 15 feet long, and amazing action, amazing jumps. I wished I'd been a photographer then, not actually catching them.